We should be live. Let's get this show on the road, on the road. What's up, everybody?
What's going on? Monday night.
Jordan here hanging out with John. See, the first one said test, then I had to cancel it because it said test again because we've been trying this new little platform we got.
Yep.
And then so I had to start it back up again to make sure it said the real thing. So,
yeah, sorry about that.
Yep, my fault.
So we should be live on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
It's working. Hey, what up, test?
Awesome.
It's working. Dope. So, Monday night conversations. The goal has been to just check in every Monday night, chop with you guys, talk about topics that we feel like are relevant right now to our lives and hopefully to your lives as well.
Yeah.
And the whole goal in this is we want to hear from you. So if you got a comment that you want to make, if you want to answer one of the questions with us, then please do. And we got you guys' comments coming up right here, and we'll be sure to read those out or to answer the questions as you give them. And so, yeah, we're super excited about that. And
is it coming up on all the platforms?
Yep. So all the platforms that we're on, we'll see it post. So if anybody posts from anywhere, it'll come from there.
Very cool.
So we're trying a cool little tool, and it's posted in multiple places. So we're super excited about that.
Will it say Facebook user, or will it tell us who it is?
It just says Facebook user, as far as I know. Maybe you want to pull it up on your phone so you can see.
Or if people just give us their name when
they can, if they want. When they post, they can put their name on there. So if you want to post, put your name on there so we know that it's you, because we can't see your name on the platform that we're using currently.
And we'll read your comments.
Yeah, we'll read your comments too. So topic of today, if it came up, hopefully it did, is happiness. And the reason we picked this topic is because we just dropped the podcast kind of talking about this a little bit with our man Leonard. Shout out to Leonard.
What's up, man?
It was a dope podcast.
Leonard Croft. If you don't follow him, go follow him.
Yeah, he's involved in all type of stuff. Gaming, music industry, education stuff. He's got his hands in all types of stuff. Merchandise. He's doing some dope stuff. And so we just wanted to shout out to him and kind of follow in line with that. And I think it's really applicable right now, too, with everything we got going on. And I don't know about y'all, but it's been a super weird day for us in the house today. So it's kind of been like blase.
Well, we've had the heat wave too, and so it's been like you're supposed to stay inside. You want to go outside because of how hot it is. You know, it's a weird deal,
right? And it's like you feel super unmotivated, right?
Yeah.
And so
normally that way in Arizona, when you feel that heat, you normally go out and do things. You go to the mall or you go places. And it's like, what can you really do? Stay stuck in a hot house or go outside in the heat? You know?
No, I feel
it has been really weird.
Tough. It's tough. Yeah, it's just been a weird day. But we pretty productive today, right?
Yeah, pretty good.
All right, so let's dive into this conversation, anyways, before we bore you guys with all of the things that we've had happen today.
Yeah.
So, question 1: is being happy in life important? Why or why not? What do you think?
Well, I think it's pretty darn important. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's written into our Constitution that we ought to pursue happiness. And when you think about things that most people pursue in life, I think we're pretty blessed, those of us that live in the West or the United States especially.
Blessed in the West,
able to pursue the things that make us happy. There's quite a few people in other countries. North Korea just pops into my mind as I'm thinking about it. I know they've got some stuff going on with their leader right now, but I've heard some stories about how difficult it is for people in that country to pursue anything other than what their leader wants them to pursue, you know? And so this idea of happiness and being something that we pursue, you know, it was written into our Constitution, as we said. I think it's a pretty important thing. Now, what makes us happy is different, but I would think that, man, if a country took it upon itself to say, we want to ensure that people in this country have this thing called happiness, I would say that not only do I think it's a pretty important thing, but I think everyone who lives in the West, especially in America, maybe we haven't thought about it too much, but it's definitely in the undercurrent of what we would consider a right or things that we should just be able to pursue. And that means it must be important. I mean, that's how I think about it, but I'm an American.
Right.
What say you, British lad?
Happiness. Yeah, I mean,
it's hard to be happy in the UK with the terrible haircuts, the lukewarm beer,
bad teeth,
terrible food.
Nah, food's great, bro.
What do British people have that's good
food, bro? Don't hate.
Yeah, but that's not British. That's Caribbean.
Yeah, but
that's an export.
It's import actually.
Whatever.
Technically, happiness. Yeah. Is being happy in life important? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Now, will you always be happy?
Yeah.
I don't think so. But I think when we all look at our lives, like, I don't think there's any of us that would say we want to live our life in a way that we don't want to enjoy it.
Right.
Right? Like, we all want to enjoy life. You know, you want to enjoy the person that you're married to or in a relationship with. You want to enjoy your children. You want to enjoy your job, right?
Your
So you want to find, your food,
your leftovers,
right? And so you want to,
Don't try that accent again.
DJ said, "Don't try the accent again." Savage. Actually, you popped up that time. Nice. Yeah, your name.
Yeah, we see your names actually, so no worries.
That's dope. Maybe it's like the thing's kicking in now. So
you guys don't like my British accent?
No, it's terrible.
Pretty good. I think it's spot on, actually.
No, it's terrible. Look at that. I just knocked that thing. But just see, DJ said, "Don't try that again." So there you go.
Is everyone at home
I just want everybody to see that.
Wow.
That everybody sees.
You're putting
DJ don't try that again.
You're
he
roasting
said, "Don't
me.
try that again." Right? Don't do it. Okay. There we go. So yeah, I think everybody wants to pursue happiness, right? Or everybody wants happiness to be a part of their lives.
What's up, Tracy?
What is up? It's a knee slapper. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, sorry.
Pursuing happiness, and I say pursue happiness. You didn't even say that, but I'm thinking about our podcast, right?
Sure.
And as I think about that, I think everybody wants to be Whataburger. There you go. Everybody wants to be happy, right? But everybody's not necessarily pursuing happiness or knowing how to be happy, right? Like, I think for a lot of us, we haven't figured out in life what actually makes us happy.
So it's not like we know what it is, but it's something we're searching for?
Yeah, it might be like that.
Dang, that's deep.
That elusive thing in our life, right? And so I think that's why people try a lot of stuff. Why you get into a bunch of different relationships, because you're trying to find what makes you happy or who makes you happy. And maybe that happens for a moment and then it goes away, or maybe it doesn't happen. Or maybe you get with that person and you find out that person helps you find out, or that thing helps you find out that that's not what makes you happy. It's actually something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think too what I found about happiness is like the temporary nature of it.
And it's definitely important. I think definitely important.
It's temporary though, I found. Like, you know, you get a new car and you're really happy that you got your new car. And then you obsess over keeping that car from getting scratched or whatever. And it's inevitable that it will get scratched or break down, right? So I think the thing about happiness that it seems it's really something to consider is the fact that it's short term. Yeah. And when we get it, it's actually something that makes us fight for.
Are we talking happy or are we talking joy?
There we go.
So it says Facebook user, I don't know who said it, sorry. It says, are we talking happy or are we talking joy? Is there a difference?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think there definitely is a difference, right? And we'll get to that a little bit more later. But I think
we're focusing on happiness
right
now.
Is definitely circumstantial, right? It's not like constant. It's more like in this situation, with this thing or without this thing, with this person or without this person, am I experiencing this feeling, emotion, this sense of happiness?
Right.
Right? That's how I define it.
I'd heard once that the word...
Devin. What's up, Devin?
Yeah, what's up, Devin? I'd heard once that the word happiness, I think this comes from Randy Reynolds, our friend back in Tyler. He had said something really profound one time about happiness. And he said that, if I'm right, he said that the word comes from an old English word, haps.
Yep.
Or happens.
Happens, right?
It's rooted in the word happens, right? Like something happened to me. Like, in other words, happiness isn't something that I pursue or go after. It's something that kind of hits me or comes like a lightning. It comes to me. I don't pursue it, if that makes sense. It happens to me. Like when people say I fell in love, it's like this idea of I'm out of control, a thunderbolt hit me, you can't control it type thing. You know what I mean? And so I think that the thing that happiness we got to be careful with in that regard is that, like we were saying earlier, it's temporary. It can come and go. You know what I mean?
That's good.
Yeah.
So what in your life currently gives you a lot of happiness? Am I going first?
I can go first. I was thinking about the question. The first thing that came into my mind was my fantasy football team, but I don't know what's going to go on with the NFL this year.
His fantasy football team name, when I first learned it, killed me. Destroyer of Hope. And I thought that was hilarious considering his occupation at the time. And I was like, you're a pastor.
I was a hope dealer.
You're a destroyer of hope.
Yeah.
So anyways, that was funny. Happiness is a result. Okay. So happiness is a result of the circumstances that we find ourselves in. I'm putting it in that context, Devin, because I'm assuming that's what you meant.
Yeah.
And I'm also assuming that was Devin.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But
a result of what?
tell me, yeah, Devin, answer that. Result of what?
Yeah.
And then, John, tell me what in your life currently gives you a lot of happiness.
Yeah.
Apart from your fantasy football team.
Yeah, that was
that
the
you don't
first
know if
thing.
you're going to be able to play.
That was the first thing that popped into my head. I think one thing that gives me a lot of happiness is doing this podcast. Looking forward to it is something that, we're all in this pandemic, this weird situation where we can't be around people.
Mm.
And, being able to connect with people and to talk
Jana. What is up?
and to chat. What's
Miss
up,
Baldwin.
Jana? So, yeah, and obviously, like we said, this is one thing. We look forward to it. It'll last a temporary moment. But, yeah, it brings me a good deal of happiness
To be here.
to be here to have conversation with people, Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that.
How about you?
I'll be cliche and say my kids.
Very temporary, that happiness.
Right? I think so. I'm happy right now because I have a baby.
Because you're not
And-
around them.
Damn.
Just kidding.
Happy right now because they're downstairs. With
Yeah,
their
right.
mom, and I'm upstairs in here doing this instead. No, I really enjoy spending time with my kids, particularly my baby right now, obviously, because she
Yeah.
can't really say anything or do anything other than smile and
And
poke
be
me in
cute.
the eye, right? So it's great.
Yeah.
And obviously, I enjoy spending time with Isaiah as well. But obviously, he's becoming his own person.
Interesting.
He's starting to do his own thing. He's got his own mind, right? So
Yeah. Do you feel that your enjoyment or happiness in them goes down as their own sense of identity and self goes up?
I think so, because it's almost like
They make you happy for selfish reasons.
it's like before, because they couldn't say or do anything, it was more about what you perceived them to be
Right.
than what they actually are.
Right.
And now they're becoming their own person, so
Mm.
it's like they're actually something. And
I
then
think
the
there's-
decision becomes different, right?
I think there's something to the childhood relationships in there too, because I've noticed that when my kids were younger, I think, a great deal happier with them.
Hmm.
And then as they got older, they became harder to discipline. And obviously the things that come with just growing up, I think they sense that sometimes, like, man, my dad's not as happy with me as he once was. And I think in our raising of our children, sometimes we got to make sure to communicate that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that just came to my mind while we were talking.
It's good. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think obviously for me as well, sports. I love
Yes.
soccer still. It's like one of the things that's near
That
and dear to
documentary,
my-
that MJ documentary, is all we've been really feeding off of in that regard.
yeah, sports. That's all we got right now. Kind of dying in that regard. But
Yeah,
I've been watching a bunch of soccer documentaries and driving John crazy and everybody
Yeah.
else.
soccer, footy ball.
And then we like to work out. So that brings me happiness.
Not
Maybe
really.
not while I'm working out, but when I'm done,
Yeah,
I
that's
feel
true.
better about myself. So yeah, obviously
A
happiness.
good meal brings a good deal of happiness.
Good meal.
A good meal, good,
Oh,
good
man.
meal, good company.
Especially, bro, you're making me think like the first bite of a really good meal after you.
Where are
work
we
hard.
going?
Or-
Where's the first restaurant we're going after this pandemic
I don't know, bro.
breaks down?
There's so many places to go.
Like, what's the first thing that pops into your head right now? Man, I just really miss eating at.
I don't know, bro. There's like three things. I'm thinking Caribbean food. I'm thinking
Yeah,
Cornish pasty.
and
I'm
obviously it's not the
thinking-
food, right? I mean,
And I'm thinking Indian food,
yes,
bro.
Oh my gosh.
Curry corner, bro.
Yes.
Whoa.
Curry corner.
So good.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, food and fellowship, hanging out with each other.
So here's a question from Devin. What's more important, regular happiness or long-lasting joy? Well, I think obviously long-lasting joy is way better than circumstantial happiness. But I think they're two very different things, right?
Yeah,
And then like, I think a valid question is happiness bad?
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think the answer is no.
Happiness itself isn't bad.
Yeah, and I think there is. I think there is nothing wrong with pursuing happiness, but I think there is this reality that we're supposed to have this thing called joy, which we'll get into more a little bit later as well. But
As far as what's more important, though.
yeah, what's more important?
Yeah, I would say obviously long-term joy, But how many people would say that they really have had long-term joy in their
Probably
life?
not many.
It's
just to be
almost
real.
it's one of those things. I feel like with joy, it's one of those things you got to work on. it's a character almost that you develop inside of yourself.
A trait.
Yeah, the ability to have joy.
And
It's like
it
a
seems
power.
to be somewhat of a choice, doesn't it?
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Like I'm going to choose to find the.
It's like a character aspect of who you are as a person.
I'm
You
going
meet some people and they're just always negative. There's no joy, regardless of what's happening.
I'm going to choose to find the goodness in whatever's happening in my life right now, right? And I think
Choosing to find goodness.
yeah, maybe that's a good definition. I don't know. Of joy, choosing to find goodness. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it seems to be that ability to, like, in the midst of, like, we're in a weird situation right now, COVID-19, right? And just finding the joy in. I've been trying to find joy or, the goodness in just being at home and waking up every morning. And, I can't tell you how, usually my kids wake up, I'm not there. And some nights they might go to sleep before I get back to the house.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm just out on the grind.
Yeah.
And so it's cool. Isaiah's going to wake up and he knows I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm saying Grace is going to wake up. She knows I'm there. And we get to spend all day together. And now, obviously, I'm still working, doing stuff like this, but it's just cool that we can have those moments, can play Mario Kart.
Oh, yeah.
We can, they can swim in the pool and we'll be sitting on the porch, hanging out with them. And just seeing the goodness in that, like we're together. You know what I'm saying? And like, that's very unusual.
Even though you might not be happy in the moments because of how chaotic stuff can be.
Oh, man.
Maybe
But
that's
when
kind
you
of
look
the point
back and reflect on
Devin's
the
trying to
day,
get
right?
at, right? Like, there's an underlying joy in the midst of all of that, regardless of how loud the kids are being, or
maybe happiness, maybe joy is like the level perspective, and then happiness kind of spikes at times.
That's good.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So joy should be like your baseline, basically.
Yeah, and then maybe happiness is like the spike.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, but I mean, without that baseline, it really becomes confusing to determine what happiness is or isn't. Right? You don't know. And
that's good.
You know what I mean? And then DJ says, painting Warhammer miniatures makes me happy because of how common it is to me. Cool. Warhammer miniatures, I have no idea what those are, bro. So you have to text me some so I can see what they look like.
Here's another good one about mental health.
Let's do it.
See, it says, for mental health, waiting for that long-lasting joy is very difficult. The daily happiness or lack of
can be a huge deficit in mental health for mine, at least. Devin again. Yeah, I feel that
lack of joy. Yeah. That's kind of what we were talking about earlier. A lack of the inability to. What would it be? A lack of the ability to see the good in anything that's going on in your life.
I think so, but I think sometimes, and it's so hard. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you find yourself in a difficult situation. Like, I mean, for me, just a week ago, I was so frustrated. Lost my job. Wife loses her job. Don't have our stimulus money yet. Not sure what's going on with the other job situation. There's just so many things up in the air, right? And it's kind of like that sense of being out of control, not knowing what's going to happen next, looking at other people and they're okay or they're happy, going on social media and seeing everybody having a great time. And you're just thinking, F my life, you know what I'm saying? And then you just have that sense of unhappiness and instability, if you will.
And it robs your joy.
And so, I definitely think about that. So, what in your life is a current source of unhappiness right now?
Unhappiness?
Yeah. Like right now, is there anything in your life that makes you unhappy?
Yeah, the amount of time my wife and I get to spend together. I think I really enjoy being able to be alone with my wife.
It's impossible.
Yes. Yeah, well, before we had kids, we used to regularly just take off. We'd go and we'd leave and we'd be gone for a week, and do that. And we didn't have kids for 5 years. So we had 5 years of just being happy and fun is what I say, and I'm not saying that when we had kids that we didn't have happiness or fun. It's kind of back to that joy thing. Like joy entered our life in a deeper way. Like I found out what it meant to be a dad. I felt the joy of all of that, but the frustration of just raising a family. Sometimes you get caught up in all the minutia of raising a family that your happiness starts to be something that you don't actually think about or pursue. And it's almost like, okay, am I being a good dad over here and a good husband? And okay, I'm finding joy in it, but I'm really not finding a lot of happiness. and then again, going back to those things, this season has been really hard for us
Not
personally.
having curbside pickup for groceries.
Yes.
Real rap. Can't get it from Walmart. We've been salty because we can't get curbside pickup
I know,
for
that's
groceries.
crazy.
I agree with that 10,000%. That is
Yeah.
definitely something to make you unhappy.
Yes, very true.
But you were saying,
Yeah, man, I think, I was just saying that it's been hard to have those times that my wife and I would have where we could just run off and do our own thing.
Mhm.
And that's been something for me that I've had to deal with, but it's something that we argue about because I love that. I love to retreat and go off, and my wife's way more practical. Like, hey, we need to do this. We need to take care of responsibility, So for me, I think it's something that when we fight, it's because like, I feel like I'm just being selfish and I want my wife all to myself. You know what I mean?
No,
Yeah.
I feel that, bro. Unhappiness. What makes me unhappy right now?
Jordan's like, life, because I'm never happy.
You're so silly, bro.
I stay in a constant state of
Unhappiness.
unhappiness until I find happiness. And then I'm like,
I mean, there's kind of some truth to that. And with me, in the sense that I'm a person who, and it's probably because of my sporting background, I really learned how not to celebrate small things for the sake of
a bigger picture.
Yes. And so I think a thing that brings me a sense of unhappiness right now is like all the things I want to be able to do in life, all the things I want to be able to do with Real Talk and not being there yet. I think that gives me a sense of unhappiness. I think that fades in and out, right? There's times where I'm like, it's all good, and there's times where I'm like, dang, we're not there yet,
Kind of about that, like, it makes me think of that Michael Jordan documentary. We were watching that part last night, and all of his teammates were shocked when they saw him emotional like that.
Yeah, because they never saw
it.
He
was never that way, but when he finally reached his goal,
he wanted to, the peak,
then he let loose.
Exactly.
Is that kind of what you're hitting at?
Yeah, I think so. I think I can tend to be that way. And so, yeah, I can live in this state of what I have is not enough in the pursuit of more, in the pursuit of achieving whatever it is I think I'm supposed to be achieving.
So, like, how much do you have to achieve before you feel happy?
I don't know. Good question.
It could become like an endless pursuit.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem, right? If you don't have a baseline,
that's the joy
foundation,
thing.
I think it can become this never-ending pursuit where you get to the place where you think that thing's going to make you happy and then it doesn't. Right? Devin said, knowing my students are being cheated on the last 6 weeks of third grade. Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't think I've thought about that a ton. I know it must be really hard for students, but it's probably hard for teachers as well. You labored hard the whole year, and part of the joy or the happiness of being a teacher is seeing your students progress and seeing them pass on to the next level and learning things that they didn't learn before, and then you have to kind of have that yanked from you as well as them. They surely got to not just short circuit their system, but your system as well, and breed a deep sense of unhappiness. So yeah, that sucks. Sorry, that has happened. It's interesting to think about that. How many people must feel that way based on their jobs?
Yeah,
and I guess obviously getting laid off was unhappiness for me.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, dang, I didn't want my relationship with my current employer to end that way, but obviously the times that we find ourselves in have determined that that's the case, right? And so that kind of made me unhappy for a few days. Let's look at this. My fourth grader is so sad she doesn't get to finish elementary school with her friends and teacher. It's been so sad to watch. I bet. We've thought about that a lot too, and I think we talked about it last time, kind of like this reality of young people have had their support system, everything that makes their life
Yeah.
normal, just yanked from them, right?
Yeah.
For us, it's kind of, as parents, it's kind of like, we just,
Okay.
yeah,
We're
we got
trucking
our
along.
kids, you know what I'm saying?
Working
Some
from
of us
home.
working from home
Yeah.
or whatever, and it's like, all right, the world goes on. But for them, like, formative, got friends, building relationships, making progress in school, and then wham, that whole thing's yanked from you, man. That's got to be pretty traumatic.
And it's not like being at home with their parents. There's a lot of playtime because we're all working, you know, and we're all like, be quiet, be careful. So this time for our kids, man, it's like they're not around a lot of their friends. You know, at school, there's that environment where they're around all of their peers and friends. So, yeah, I definitely feel that, man. It's been tough to watch.
Do you think most people are happy with their life?
I think before I answer that, I thought that was good. Makes me unhappy when I can't take pain away from my kids.
That's good.
Man, that's good.
I think that might be one of the hardest things about being a parent, right? Don't you think?
Yeah, we can't take pain away from them. You know, pain is a reality. What's up, Rumple Rock Rock? I think that's my kid right there saying hi.
Roman or Rex, one of the two.
All right.
Yeah, I think seeing your kid unhappy. I mean, it's interesting because I've seen my mom. Some of the times I've seen her unhappiest is when she was watching me be unhappy.
Mm.
And obviously, I haven't really got to that place yet with my kids, but it's going to be an interesting experience to see them first time they get their heart broken or first time.
Well, I think
they
you've
really
seen it a
fail
little bit
at
with us
something
living
or-
together.
Maybe a little bit, but I don't
Because
think
I've noticed that how our kids treat your kids sometimes, you kind of get like up in your feelings about that sometimes. And I think it's because we're all watching them and seeing each other. You know, I think the reality is like, yeah, when you see something happening to your kid, it kind of like makes you unhappy. Like, dang, you know, it affects you. Like, why does it matter to you? That's something they're doing, but why is it affecting me?
well,
You know what
'cause
I'm saying?
You made them, right?
No, for sure. But like, that's nothing between me and you or you and like my kids. That's something between my kids and your kids. But it's making you feel a kind of way.
That's true.
So now your unhappiness or your feelings are based on what you're observing between them, right?
Yeah,
I think that's what Jana's getting at. Like,
yeah.
when you see something, it makes you feel a type of
Or
way,
they tell you about something.
and you can't do anything about it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Man.
Do you ever fake being happy? And if you do, why?
Hmm.
And my answer is definitely yes. So I would say
yeah.
I fake it at times. And the reason I fake it is for the sake of other people. So I may feel a certain type of way about the day or something that happened, but I know that if I was to bring that up, it would be extremely burdensome to the people around me, or it would cause me perhaps to take out that circumstance on them.
Hmm.
And so I feel like it's in their best interest if I just pretend as if I'm happy so that they don't have to face the brunt of whatever it is that I'm feeling or experiencing. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I just don't want to burden them with it or, make them feel bad
Mm-hmm.
about something that they shouldn't have to feel bad about. That has nothing to do with them. You know what I'm saying? I had a bad day. A donor stopped giving to Real Talk. An organization said they don't want to work with us, or somebody didn't return my call, or you know what I'm saying? Whatever.
Yeah.
And then I'm upset and frustrated about that or unhappy, and then I bring that home, and Katie doesn't deserve that. Kids don't deserve that.
Right.
So I think there's times where I will try and put on a smiley face for the sake of particularly my family.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I think I do that even in the organization. Like, things aren't going the way I want them to, and perhaps with the rest of the team, I'm not showing that things aren't going the way that I want them to.
That's why you act stoic so much?
No, I think that's just part and parcel of the way that I was raised. And it kind of helps me to not show my displeasure in certain situations and circumstances. But then it also doesn't help me show when I need to,
right.
If that makes sense.
That's interesting. Yeah, I felt like with my kids, I never wanted to or I just say with kids, but people in general, but I've seen this with my kids big time. I feel like I owed it to them to always keep it 100 about how I felt exactly in the moment. So I don't say I've never faked happiness, but it bothers me when I feel like people fake happiness, because I feel like, first of all, if I'm happy, I don't care how you feel. Like, I'm happy right now. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, I'm that kind of person. Like, if it was American Idol, I'm like, I just want American Idol. You see these people, like, when they win American Idol, they thank you very much because of the person standing next to them. They feel bad for them. I'm like, yo, I just want American Idol. I'm about to go ham and turn up and let everybody know.
That dude's face.
Yeah! You know what I'm saying?
Dude, right?
Yeah. And so I think for me, man, it's one of those things. Back to what you were saying, I had a family member growing up that was kind of like that. That as a kid, I couldn't read them, whether they were happy or angry, because they were just one kind of way. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I never approached that person because I was scared what I might get. And I think it's really important for people to know, especially young people, when you wear a happy face, you're saying, you can trust me. Because that's the first thing that people encounter when they encounter a person is how happy they appear, right? Mm. And so for me, I think that I've always figured that, like, being honest about that and being transparent about how you feel is best for the other person. So it's never been like, let me go ahead and pretend some kind of way for a person, like, because that person needs to know if I'm safe or not. And at some point, if I've pretended to be happy around a person and then I blow up like 10 minutes later, they're like, whoa, I thought you were happy. What, were you faking the whole time? Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so when you fake happiness, it's more dangerous for the person you're faking it for because they think you're safe. Damn, or they think they can.
Point, bro.
They think they can trust you.
So then they might actually pile something on you that makes you
exactly.
Go nuts,
exactly.
That's
and that's
a good point.
Yeah, that's my point.
Devin
and so,
said, if I'm unable with random people, I may fake it. Or if I'm unhappy with random people, I might fake it because it doesn't matter. If I'm unhappy with Humberto, I address it, even in front of my kids, because they need to see calm conflict resolution and understand that disagreeing doesn't mean we don't love each other.
Yeah,
I agree 10,000%. I think
I respect the calm nature of that.
Yeah,
I've never been able to maintain my calm in that regard.
I think, yeah, and I think that comes down to this idea that the pursuit of happiness or happiness itself is something that the individual attains, right? And so you're making a great point, Devin, in that. No, actually, happiness is something we get as a family.
What do you mean?
And so, like, I think what can happen is the reason why.
So we experience happiness collectively?
Yeah, so I think the reason we can. And I think the reason why I'd be tempted to hide my unhappiness is because I don't want to put that on that individual, because I'm feeling like that's something I have to deal with by myself.
But what if they can help you with
exactly.
that?
Exactly. Right? And so what if they can help me with that? Actually, me sharing my unhappiness with them equals us together becoming happy as they.
Bro, that just melted my mind.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, you can only do that with people that are willing to let you be that transparent.
No, for sure. And but like you're talking about, that's why there has to be that safety and that connection and that trust in the relationship, right? Hopefully it's with significant other or a really close friend where you can do that and they're going to respond in a way because they know you. You know what I'm saying? You've got a relationship and you're going to be able to move out of that space into something else together.
It also means other people have to care about your happiness.
It does. And I think
because they're only going to help if.
But I think what we have
happiness matters.
And what we have to understand is that, like, if I live in a house and there's fundamentally people in that house that are not happy, it affects everybody else. Mm. So if I want to be happy, or if I want to have happiness in my life, then I have to be concerned with the happiness of the people around me.
So we are responsible to steward the happiness of others.
I think so. Like your kids, right?
I've never thought about that.
Like your kids, right?
I'm just like, dang, they're unhappy. They need to deal with it. Like me, you know what I'm saying?
It's real, though. But
dude, I haven't ever thought about that until you just made that point.
But it's individualism gone rampant, right? Like, we're so individualistic that we would think that. We would think that a 5-year-old is responsible for their own happiness.
Wow.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, how can
responsible for making me happy.
Exactly. Which Yeah, we're parentifying our kids at that point, right? Luca and Marcelo don't need this fantasy marriage that means we don't fight or argue, disagree, or no. 10,000%.
Agreed.
I agree with that 110%. I mean, I argue in front of my kids with my wife. I probably should do a better job of how I argue with my wife in front of my kids.
I definitely should. I lose my freaking mind. I turn like into Hulk. Hulk smash. It's over like, I just wanted to know where the salt was. It's where you put it yesterday.
Refried beans. Bro.
Under the couch.
Beans.
Bro, we had this existential conversation over why it was easy to leave refried beans out of my meal order the other night. It was ridiculous. I'm that petty, though.
It was funny.
That's what I'm saying, though. I don't care about other people's happiness. I'll be like, I wanted my beans.
It doesn't matter that everybody else wanted black beans, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, you should have found your happiness and that everybody else was happy that they had black beans. So, hey, growth moment, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah, I think we have to recognize that we have to be concerned with the happiness or whatever we want to call it, the well-being of the people, at least, especially the people in our immediate family, right? And I don't know about y'all, but when I know like a close friend of mine struggling, it's really hard to think about anything else.
Yeah.
It's really hard to feel good about life and everything I'm doing. In fact, the fact that I'm having a great time and this person's having a terrible time makes me feel like a bum. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you're killing it and you got a friend who's going through a really bad situation and circumstance and you almost feel like super guilty because everything's going good for you right now and everything's going not so good for them.
Well, that's how you know who your real friends are.
How so?
If you're able to celebrate something, like you know someone else is going through something and it doesn't really bother you that much, that person, if it doesn't bother you that much, isn't really that close of a friend to you. Like, if that person's really close to you and they're going through something and you're being, quote, blessed right now or whatever, like, you should be like, dang, how can I be happy right now when my homie's struggling? And I think more people have gotten closer, like, well, they're responsible for finding their own happiness.
Yeah, they got to figure it out.
They got to figure it out. I'm sorry. It was like,
and it's that individualism.
Is that really friendship?
It's that individualism at play again. Now, I'm not saying that people aren't responsible for the decisions that they make, because they are.
Yeah.
But what does that even mean? Like, just because people make bad decisions doesn't mean that we shouldn't walk with them and help them.
Yeah, they're my friend.
Everything I possibly can. And
exactly.
And do all that I can as a friend, as a brother, as whatever else to do what needs to be done. What does it say?
I like this comment here. It says, I just encourage people who are down. We all need someone to be rooting for us. And can I tell you, that's what friends do. Their friends aren't haters. Friends are people that root for you, man. They want you to win. Mm-hmm. They get excited. They don't get jealous when you win. Your friend is excited about you winning as they are about themselves winning. That's what it means to be friends. I take this so seriously. About 2 years ago, I went through my Facebook friend group and I thought, of all these people in my Facebook friend group, if I messaged them or they messaged me and they were like, yo, it's 3:00, bro, I need you to come over right now, would I do it? And I went, if I wouldn't do that for that person, they don't need to be my friend. And so I cleaned my friend. And I don't mean like I wouldn't do things for people, but I really thought like, man, would I really do that? Like, no BS right now. Like, would I do that? Because it says Facebook friends, like not followers. On Facebook, it's friends, right? So for me, I went through Facebook and I was like, no. And if I couldn't answer that question on my private Facebook, like a personal Facebook, I just cleaned that thing up. And so a lot of people ask me, they're like, yo, hey, do you want to be friends on Facebook sometimes? And I'm like, yo, no. You know what I'm saying? I don't always let people be my friend on Facebook.
Be a friend to your friend too, though. If your friend is giving real critique on something,
yeah, that's good.
Heed that wisdom and take it with love. No doubt. And
that's good.
Probably is one of
that's hard to do, though.
Yeah, hardest things to do, right? When your friend's rebuking you or correcting you or challenging you on something, especially on something you don't want to be challenged on, right? That's super hard.
Yeah.
I know for me, like when me and you challenge each other on stuff, we might get mad at each other, say a couple bad words, storm off. You know what I'm saying? And then come back later and be like, oh, bro, you know what? You were right. You were right about this. You were right about that.
That's true.
I needed time to reflect and think on it.
And your true friends, when you beef, it's like you get that sick feeling in your stomach. It's like, we got to fix this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can't be okay with the fact that we're not okay.
Yeah.
It does something to me.
Yeah, man.
So I like this question a lot. Are pleasure and happiness the most important thing in life?
Oof. Are pleasure and happiness the most important thing in life?
Things in life. Thing. Now, I think...
I would say yes.
Right? Now, here's the reality.
Pleasure and happiness are the most important things in life.
So, here's the thing about it, right? We have been put on this earth for a reason, right? And obviously, me and John are Christians. So, how do we understand being put on this earth? Like, God designed us. What did He design us for? To worship Him and to enjoy everything that He has created. Mm-hmm. Not to enjoy it for its sake, but to recognize the Creator in the enjoyment of it, right? And so, as a human, there's this, I don't know, primitive relationship, I guess you call it, like a fundamental core of what it means to love and serve God is like to worship God and to enjoy Him and to enjoy Him through the things that He's created.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I think that what's happened is there's been this separation between the material and the immaterial, right? So heaven and earth, right?
Yeah.
And so I think actually what's supposed to happen is they're deeply interconnected, right? Like the spiritual and the physical. And so there's I think that everything is spiritual. You know what I'm saying? When I eat, it's spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like that food is on my plate because God made food.
Right.
And I have taste buds and I can enjoy it. And I can find satisfaction in it because God designed it that way. And then what that should cause me to do is not worship the food, which is man's problem, right?
Sure.
We worship the created thing instead of the creator. But I should be able to worship God through the things that He's designed. Mm. In the same way I should be able to go play soccer, right? And then I should be able to enjoy God through that experience, right?
Yeah. The way I think about it is like if I find happiness in something, right, then that something is more important than the happiness because it's the source of my happiness, right? Mm-hmm. So if my family is the source of my happiness and my family dies, am I no longer happy? If I have friends and they're the source of my happiness and they die or reject me, am I no longer happy? And so happiness has to be something that I think is rooted. Happiness, what were the questions? Are pleasure and happiness the most important thing in this life? I think all of us are pursuing what makes us happy. Now, if we can find that in family, some people, they don't find pleasure and happiness in family. They find abuse in family. They find rejection in family. They find hatred in family. So to say family is the most important thing is to ask people to stay in a position of abuse, hurt, and pain sometimes, if family is the most important thing. So something has to be more important than things, like physical, material things. And so for me, when I think about that, it's like, what is my source of pleasure? What is my source of happiness? And for me, that has been in my relationship with God, because it's been I think we were reading a passage in Isaiah last night. It says, you have given, in Psalms last night, it says, you have filled me with more joy than bread and wine. Mm. And the thing that hit me was, what does it mean to be filled? It means it's an act that something else does to you. Like joy isn't something you pursue. Happiness really isn't something you pursue. It's something that you find. Mm. And you find that in God. And that passage says He fills us with joy. Not that we pursue it, but it's a work that He does in our life. Mm. And when that happens, it's more than bread and wine. That's bread and wine, things we consume, things we take, things that we want, momentary happiness, things that fleet, right? And so for me, that's kind of how I look at it, that my source is something beyond just things.
Yeah,
people.
I love this. Honoring God and loving others bring you pleasure and joy. It comes back full circle.
Yeah,
I agree.
It's good.
And I think that's what I was trying to get at. Kind of like this idea of the idea, from what I understand, is Christian hedonism, right? The idea
Yeah.
that you find your ultimate pleasure and joy in worshiping God. Like that's
Yeah.
where you find happiness. That's where you find satisfaction.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily like I find joy in sitting cross-legged on a mountaintop with
No,
an acoustic guitar
that-
somewhere.
And that's my
you know?
point, right? And I think our pleasure and happiness the most important thing in life. Maybe that's too big a question, but I think they are amongst some of the most important things in life, right? And I say that from the perspective of being a human. Now I understand fundamentally, like, I've been designed to worship God and experience God, but how has God made that experience of Him come about?
Well, God designed us for pleasure, is my point.
Exactly.
So,
I think
happiness and pleasure are definitely the most important things in life. He told us to be fruitful.
from a
and
human experience,
from
I
a
think
human
so.
experience.
But
yeah.
I think what we have to understand is that God gave us those things as gifts, not that they're things to be worshipped in of themselves.
no,
right?
for sure.
But there
for
are things
sure.
that God has given us to
But
experience
there's a lot of people
out
that's-
of His
Yeah.
goodness. Like, hey, I want to give these as gifts to
Yeah.
my children, right?
But there's a lot of people out there honoring God right now in terrible, abusive church relationships, in terribly bad situations that they need to get out of
Mhm.
because they've convinced themselves somehow that honoring God is more important than their happiness. And what I'm saying is, when you're truly honoring God, when you're truly worshiping God, there's a fountain of joy and happiness inside of you that overflows. And a lot of people are just like you were saying, fake it till you make it earlier. That's not Christianity. You filled me with joy. So God literally does a work inside of us, or we're just lying. And so for people who say like happiness isn't important, it's like a failure to realize how God made us and what He made us for. He made us for happiness. So yeah, I mean, He said, be fruitful and multiply. And I don't know about you, but every time I've multiplied, that thing is pleasurable. Like God could have made, you see what I'm saying? God could have made that feel the same way it feels when you itch. But He made it to feel like pleasure. The command of God was connected to pleasure. And humans, the reason they sin is because they think they're going to find pleasure in other things than God. But it is pleasure. It's pleasure. It's happiness. It's joy that we're pursuing. It's not, some, existential idea of what it means to be a godly person. Like, we don't even know what God is until God flips the switch on us and shows us who He is.
And I think that
You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think
So
it comes
pleasure
back
is
to
that
some
root thing.
I think it comes back to some of those like aesthetic, Gnostic ideas, right? That have kind of taught us, or at least crept into our ideas, that somehow it makes us more godly if we remove the pursuit of those things, right? So if I remove the pursuit of happiness, or if I remove the pursuit of pleasure from my life, you know what I'm saying? I'll never forget. I was sitting with one of my friends in Nacogdoches, Texas, man. It was one of the funniest things he ever said to me. We were sitting eating lunch together, and we were just talking, and I was like, bro, why'd you eat your food like that? Because he was eating super weird. He was like, bro, you eat for pleasure. I eat to keep my body nourished because I'm godly. And I was dying laughing because I'm like, he's like, you're a heathen.
Wow.
He said, I just eat solely for nourishment. You eat for pleasure,
You eat for
bro.
pleasure.
And so you're ungodly.
Like
and
he was doing something
and
wrong.
we laughed, but like,
I'd be like,
there's
you're right.
like real rap. There's people that like think that, right?
Yeah.
Like there's certain things that I shouldn't do, and there's like I shouldn't enjoy this the way I'm enjoying it, because somehow if
Feel
I'm
guilty
enjoying,
about being
exactly
happy.
right. Like I shouldn't be doing that.
Not
You know what I
me.
mean?
I'm gonna celebrate. I'm gonna suck the wings. I'm gonna get all of it in there in your face.
You know what I'm saying? Get it all in my teeth and all that stuff. In
I'm
Jesus'
break the bone
name.
and use it like a toothpick
You
later.
know what I'm saying? Real rap.
Hey, what's up, Adam?
What is up, bro? And so I think some of that stuff, some of those ideas have just crept into what we think it means to serve God. Like, if I really love God, I'll marry somebody who's ugly. You know what I'm saying? Because that'll make me super righteous.
Man.
You know what I'm saying? If I really love God, I'll not kiss the person I'm gonna get married to until our wedding day. You know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like doing that is a bad thing.
Kissing's
I'm just saying
good.
I'm just saying that like we
It's
have
pleasurable.
do you understand what I'm saying? We put like these things in place that we think make us more godly or make us more righteous. And ultimately the only thing that makes us righteous is
God.
Christ's sacrifice
He
on
makes
our behalf.
us
You know what I'm saying?
righteous. Yeah.
And then we're still here. And so what are we still here for? Obviously to tell other people about God, to tell other people about the kingdom and what it's like to live.
Yeah, but
in
real
it.
talk, bro.
But,
Like,
what
who
is it
goes
like
around like talking about God all the time?
No, real rap. I'm not saying we do, but like people are supposed to look at our lives and see the way we live and see the way that we enjoy life and to see the way we enjoy
it says more
God.
about God, how happy you are, I think.
Like real rap. I think it does.
So a lot of unhappy
it's interesting
Christians
because a lot of people think, Christianity is a bunch of rules and they think it's boring and it's all about perfection and all those different types of things. But what if we were Christians who were gathering together, who were happy, we were eating meals together, and we were enjoying trips together?
True.
But like while we were on those trips, we were like, wow, look at what God has created. Wow, look at the food that God has allowed us to eat. Wow, look at the things that God has allowed us to experience. Look at the things He's hidden in creation for us to see and feel and taste and touch and discover. And you know what I'm saying? Like, that's dope.
Yeah, it is.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's the way we should be looking at the world. And as we think about happiness and as we think about pleasure, those things come from God, right? The same way prayer comes from God. And, you know what I'm saying? Reading the scriptures come from God. And yeah, let's look at some of these comments. I struggled for years with wanting to tell people about God, but afraid to because so many Christians I knew were grumpy at me.
Yeah, that's good.
And it's true. Like, why are we not experiencing this happiness? Why are we not experiencing pleasure? Like, if our God's the creator of the universe, then everything that's good about existence, He created, right? It's kind of like this idea. I love it. It's called structure and direction. So in the beginning, God creates everything. Structure, good, right? And then fundamentally, direction, what happens is man takes that and either uses it for bad or uses it for good. So everything that God has created inherently in itself, because God created, is good.
Mm-hmm.
But what we choose to do with it now determines, okay, now is that thing being used for good or is that thing being used for evil?
Yeah, that's good.
It's like sex, right? Good thing. But we take it out of its correct and proper context, right? And bad things happen.
Just because you're unhappy, I'm going to put it up here, just because you're unhappy doesn't mean you don't love God too. That's
true.
A really great point. There's been many times in my life where I've gone through seasons of deep depression and unhappiness, and people would come to me and be like, "What's wrong with you? What's happening? Don't you love God?" I'm like, "Yeah, I love God. I'm just in a trash can right now in my life." You know what I'm saying? Like, of course I love God. So yeah, that's true.
And I think that's another part of what we've lost. The book is called Creation Regained, and it is by a guy named Al Walters. Yeah, it's really good. You should read it.
Here, I'll put it in there. Keep going, man.
I'll post it. I can post it in the group.
Oh, okay.
I'll post it in the group later. Yeah. And so, what was I going to say? Yeah. So I think one of the things that we've lost too is lament, right? So we're not people, like as much as we're talking about happiness and joy and all that type of stuff, lament is also super crucial to what it means to be human right now because of sin.
Right.
Like point blank period. Because there's evil in the world, because bad things happen, because people die, because COVID-19 comes on the scene and kills however many thousand people it has and shut down our economy. There is this thing called lament where we say, man, God, I'm sorrowful. I'm sad. I'm upset about what's happening in the world right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the things we've also done as Christians is said that that's not okay.
Yeah.
Like that it's not okay. So like it's not, we don't live in this sense of pleasure and satisfaction in who God is and the things that He's created. Mm-hmm. And then we also don't live in this space where like when things go wrong and things go bad, we're supposed to lament. It's like we're supposed to be these weird like victory in Christ, righteousness, like people praying all the time and doing all this weird stuff. And it's like, no, we're human, right? Like we have emotions, we feel things, we experience things, we get sad, we get happy, we, joy,
that goes
anger,
back to why you
pain,
fake
suffering.
That goes back to why you fake happiness earlier. Because a lot of times we fake happiness when we're around people because they don't want to let us lament.
That's good, bro.
Think about how many times you've gone to church and put on that fake smile.
It's true. Because you're highly favored.
Less than highly favored. Where on the inside you're broken and tore up on the inside because of stuff in your family or whatever is going on. But you don't want to share some of that stuff, right? Or whatever, for whatever reason,
And I think that for real binds people up, right? Because they don't feel as if they can come into that space and be safe.
Or they don't feel like they can lament.
The space where they're supposed to be safest, right? Yeah. The space where they're supposed to be able to confess sin or confess brokenness, confess suffering, and be healed, be prayed for, be lifted up, be encouraged.
Well, when you share that, man, people get all weird. They're all of a sudden wanting to call you every day and tell everyone and like, all this
Well,
kind of
people
stuff.
can be that way, but I think the fear can be that, like, if that stuff's happening in your life, once again, perhaps you're not godly, or perhaps you don't love God because you're unhappy. Perhaps you don't love God because you're sick. Perhaps you don't love God because, you know, you lost your job or things aren't going the way that you thought they would. And that's not the case at all. It just, like, life happens.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that God sovereignly isn't involved in that, even though, to me, that the more I study, the more that becomes a mystery. How, I don't know.
He
right?
uses those things.
Yeah, he does.
in
He
our
uses
life.
them, right, for sure. But, like, those things still happen, and they still hurt, and they still suck. Yeah, exactly. In his presence, there's fullness of joy. So we feel like if we're struggling, we're not in his presence. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, how is that true? If God created the world and then upholds it and sustains it and is actively involved in it, like right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
If God is in me and in you and in John, and then like with us, then did he just disappear all of a sudden because I'm not experiencing joy? Like he just left? Like, oh, you're not joyful. See you later. Get some joy and I'll be back. You know? Like, is that how it doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
But we just say stupid things because once again, we're wrapped up in tradition, or that's been used as a way to control, oppress, malign people, make them behave a particular way, make them do a particular thing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And so, yeah, man, I think in this day and age, people need to see way more Christians that like have that freedom in Christ, you know what I'm saying, that are enjoying their lives, that have all these things about them that are good and God honoring, and then their flaws and their failures and their mistakes and their brokenness and their sin, like all of it's there.
Isn't it
But
weird
there's
that
this person that in the midst of all of that shadow and that light, right, is trying to submit to the Spirit and not to the flesh, you know what I'm saying? And it doesn't mean you're always going to get it right. But people see like, yo, this person is trying to grow in their faith, and it's real, it's genuine. They're not dishonest about who they are. They're pursuing their God. They're experiencing happiness and joy, or they might not be in this season, but I think that stuff kind of ebbs and flows with life in general.
Yeah,
but
true.
I think even in the midst of all of that, like we're still on this pursuit, right?
Yes.
Of to be happy and to work those things out and to trust God in the midst of suffering and find that joy and all those different types of things that are just a part of the human experience right now.
Isn't it a weird thing that we can have tragedy in our lives, but in the midst of like a funeral, you can find yourself laughing about something? That's weird. Like as a human, we don't just feel one thing. It's like, okay, I feel this way, now I feel this way, and then I feel this way, and now I feel this way. It's like we can feel a bunch of feelings all at once. And it's crazy that you can feel joy and happiness at the same time, or tragedy and happiness at the same time. Like you can feel like things that seem to be opposite at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, ambivalence.
Yeah.
The ability to experience two things at the same time.
So much good stuff.
John Piper quote, "Love is the overflow of joy in God. It is not the duty for duty's sake or right for right's sake. It is a resolute abandoning of one's own good with a view solely to the good of the other person. It is first a deeply satisfying experience of the fullness of God's grace, and then a doubly satisfying experience of sharing that grace with another person."
That's so good.
That is good. Yeah. I mean, John Piper says it better than we ever could.
That's why I was like really reticent to say anything about Piper, but I'm glad you mentioned it. Bro, I hate dropping Piper because you could just quote his. I mean, has anyone ever thought more deeply about the topic?
I don't know. I mean,
you know
he's the one who kind of pushes Christian hedonism, right?
Oh, for sure. Not. That's why, like, first off, when that question got asked, I was like, oh, dang, am I going to go against my boy Johnny Piper? You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, I think it's cool to just think it through. But
he's the one that made me think about a lot of that stuff.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
And it says, I think it goes back to what you were saying, John, about how guilty. God wants us to be happy. And sometimes we really don't believe that, right? That's interesting because, right, you hear a lot of people say, well, God's not concerned with your happiness. He's concerned with your holiness, right?
Right.
And so God's not concerned with how you feel and whether you have joy in this life, but he's simply concerned with sanctifying you.
Yeah.
And
you know what really got me on this? If God is a father, right, he calls himself Father God. I'm a father. And I know with my kids, I genuinely desire their happiness.
Yep.
I don't desire their unhappiness. Now, sometimes they're unhappy, and I realize in that moment that it's for a good reason. But what will that good reason end up producing?
Happiness.
Happiness.
So it might
right?
be present unhappiness for future
Happiness.
right? That has longevity to
Yeah.
it.
So God has to be concerned with our happiness, or I'm better than God because I care about my kids better than God.
Yeah.
If God
Which
didn't
isn't
make
true.
me in his image to care about us, then why do I care about my
And then
kids?
you'd have to ask yourself the question, why did God create all the good things that he created,
Yeah.
right? For us to experience and to enjoy. If it was just about us being sanctified,
hmm
then, here's your rations, become holy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, I
But,
would say part of
there's all
that's
these
the fall.
wonderful things.
Because thorns and thistles didn't come until after the fall.
True.
God
True.
created us originally to walk in absolute happiness and bliss. When you
Because we
eat
were
from
walking
these,
with him, right? And that's
That's
what
my
got messed
point.
up.
when he said he had created everything, he said it was good. Like there was no badness. So really, we're talking about unhappiness and all this stuff. We're saying it's a result of the fall of man.
And I think ultimately, and what is God's ultimate end, right? Eternity.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so he sees the momentary unhappiness for the everlasting joy that we'll experience when he says, well done, good and faithful servant, enter into my rest, right? And so when you put it in that perspective,
Dang, in
what
my
we
presence is fullness of joy.
when
We'll never experience until we're finally in heaven.
So when you put it in that perspective, right, life is but a vapor, it's but a moment. And there'll be, there might be years of unhappiness, there might be, decades of unhappiness, but when we enter into eternity, that will be, a grain on the beaches on a beach, right?
Yeah.
A grain
Like
of sand
this
on a
life
beach.
this life will be like a memory to us. C.S. Lewis says, like, you know how like when you have a really good dream and you wake up and you kind of remember parts of it? When we get to heaven, that's what our memory of like this world will be. Like, and it's kind of a memory, kind of like how we had a dream, but now we're in reality. Now we're in heaven. We're in eternity. Yeah, it's good. Reckless love. It's great.
All right, guys. Well, the happiness conversation.
Yeah,
Hopefully that
great.
was helpful for you as it was us. It was cool for me just to kind of just work through that. Like I'm literally working through stuff as I'm talking with y'all. And I hope you guys were doing the same. We love having these conversations. Like I said, they're going to continue the Monday night conversation. Jump on, invite people. I know you can do like watch parties and all those different types of things. Share it with people. Share it on your profile. All those different types of things. We want to get the word out about this and just continue to have it grow and just continue to hear more people's perspectives. And so, yeah, we enjoyed it.
Yeah.
We'll be back here again next Monday. We love you guys. We will talk to you soon. Peace out.
Look forward to it too. Love you guys.
Look forward to next Monday.